Good morning. Good morning, and welcome to your Monday morning and a brand new week for the Montreal Canadiens, who are coming off quite the wild, unpredictable weekend. We'll get into the Saturday game. We'll get into the Sunday night game when the Montreal Canadiens had big-time rivals on the docket at the Bell Center, taking on, of course, yes, the Toronto Maple Leafs on Saturday and New York on Sunday. Welcome to the channel, everybody. This is our third live in a row. I haven't done this many lives. It feels like a minute, but it was that kind of weekend. So get used to the fact that, and I want to put this in, trying to be as consistent as I possibly can every time I jump in this space, to let you all know, in terms of building routine, building habits, etc., that Saturdays and Sundays at around 9:30 in the morning is when you're going to be able to catch me live as we react to all things Montreal Canadiens, especially on a Sunday morning after a Saturday night game like we went through this past weekend. So as the chat continues to just get a little bit busier, we'll start to engage with all our viewers on this Back to Work Monday, as Audio Murphy is already in the chat nice and early this morning. Good to see you, brother. When it comes to the Montreal Canadiens bounce back performance, fresh off of what they were able to do Sunday at the Bell Center. That was like a playoff game. Wowzers for the good guys. Audio Murphy's perspective on this Monday morning. And right off the hop, yeah, the Montreal Canadiens came back not once, not twice, not thrice, but four different times against the New York Rangers to escape with a 5-4 win in overtime off of Patrick Laine's 12th of the season, as now he has two non-power play goals, two even-strength goals for Patrick. Once again, enjoys the ambiance, enjoys the energy and the passion and the vibe from the capacity crowd at the Bell Center, and something he had mentioned after the game when asked about what's it like hearing the roars and the vibe and the feels, saying it's never something that you can get used to. The building is awesome, and it was one of those weekends where it felt like, man, you wanted to be a part of that ride. And we'll talk about Saturday and what happened and why I think that Saturday game is a throwaway game based on what we saw Sunday against the New York Rangers. Because as the headline suggests on today's live stream, the Montreal Canadiens are a good team. The Montreal Canadiens are a good team. So I don't think the jury is out anymore. The jury is back in. They have rendered their verdict. And the Canadiens are a good team. Good teams don't have performances like they did against the New York Rangers. And I understand Jakub Dobeš was back in goal, and the Montreal Canadiens won a game where they didn't need Jakub Dobeš to be the best goaltender on the ice, but he certainly was in overtime, especially on that Artemi Panarin. Unbelievable. Dobeš made two outstanding stops in overtime to preserve the victory for the Montreal Canadiens, who, let's call it, they are a good team. They have not lost back-to-back hockey games in over a month. I think the last time they did that was like December 12th and 14th. Since then, yes, they've gone on, 3 or 4 consecutive 3-game winning streaks. That's as long as this team has won games consecutively so far this season, and we know who they beat to get to the point where we're talking about a team that is 12-3-1 in their last 16 games. So they are a good team, and I stand by that. And for me, when I look at how the Montreal Canadiens played, and for regular viewers of my channel, right? For regular viewers that are here all the time, you guys know I have talked about, the Montreal Canadiens attitude. I have talked about how the Montreal Canadiens brought in special to give them a different look. You don't believe me? Here, look at this. Habs' new hire, Habs' secret weapon. Me and Sean Campbell from 6 days ago got over 7,000 views on the Habs' new, this one right here, Habs' new hire. And if you didn't watch the video, the basic Cole's notes, the takeaway from the Canadiens bringing in a former Hab tough guy to help not teach them how to fight, but to have a little bit more of that confrontational bleep you type attitude. And unless you have blinders on and you don't like the Montreal Canadiens, they're not your favorite team, it's impossible to ignore the Montreal Canadiens' FU attitude in a game like Sunday night against the New York Rangers. And I believe that is a big reason why this team showed character, guts, and came back 4 different times to beat the New York Rangers. And you can see the work that they've put in and how it's paying off. 12-3-1 in their last 16. Do we have a goalie controversy now with Jakub Dobeš getting to 5-0. He had allowed 4 goals total over 4 combined starts. He allowed 4 goals in a 5-4 overtime victory. And I'm not thinking that Jakub Dobeš wasn't ever going to allow more than 1 goal a game or that he was going to go on this crazy unbeaten run. No, he is human. And Jakub Dobeš, I think, when we talk about his game yesterday, was, I'm a big fan of his attitude. I love what he has to say. I think he carries swagger off the ice and on the ice when he talks to reporters, reminiscent of the Patrick Waugh days in terms of his attitude and his inner belief. And now he's got to go out there and he's got to play and he's got to stop pucks and he's got to help the Montreal Canadiens pile up wins and pile up points because the race in the Eastern Conference is absolutely cuckoo bananas. And I don't think it's going away anytime soon. Let's take a quick look over. If you're not au courant with what's going on in the standings, the Ottawa Senators had a massive win yesterday. They've won 2 in a row. They have 52 points and today are the number 1 wildcard team in the East. Columbus right there behind them with 51 points, but so are Montreal and Boston. Both teams with 50 points, and the Canadiens having a game in hand on the Boston Bruins. Now, Montreal gets back to a traditional Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday format. They play 3 times this week. 2 of the 3 will be at home. And it starts tomorrow against the Tampa Bay Lightning, who have won back-to-back games. And it's not like the schedule makers have dealt the Montreal Canadiens any favors, but they have this week. The Tampa Bay Lightning on Monday, tonight, play the Toronto Maple Leafs at 7:30. So the Montreal Canadiens will get the Lightning on the second leg of a back-to-back, and they're probably going to go with Andrei Vasilevskiy tonight. And that means, so the Montreal Canadiens have a slight advantage if you believe in that. If you believe that Vasilevskiy against the Leafs tonight, and the Montreal Canadiens find themselves with Jonas Johansson, I guess, as the backup with the Tampa Bay Lightning. So that's kind of how I see it. Let's jump over to the chat quickly. Happy Monday afternoon. Happy after the Montreal Canadiens put their nuts on the table and let everybody in the league take notice. That 7-3 loss to Toronto was an outlier. It happened. It was 1 game. Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for being with me on this Monday morning on a brand new week where the Montreal Canadiens play 3 times. Tomorrow and all week on the channel, only because, again, you guys have responded and encouraged this, so I want to stay consistent. Sean Campbell is back on the podcast all week as we talk about a bunch of different issues. One being Owen Beck was called up by the Montreal Canadiens ahead of Sunday's game, something that Campbell and I have been talking about for a while now, so happy to see Owen Beck back in the National Hockey League. He had earned the call-up Sunday. I'm not entirely sure why the Montreal Canadiens waited until Sunday because, what's the point here? Michael Pezzetta did everything a great teammate should do. Kept his head down, kept his mouth shut, sat for 30 games, and then basically, because of Emil Heineman and a bad driver in Utah, Michael Pezzetta's back in the lineup. And Michael Pezzetta on Saturday played less than 3 minutes. Like, what is the point? And he didn't even take a penalty. So does Martin St. Louis flat out just not like Michael Pezzetta? Does he just not think he's a valuable member that can contribute to the Montreal Canadiens? And look, I'm not saying Michael Pezzetta was the reason why the Canadiens lost that Saturday game. Like, if Michael Pezzetta plays 12 minutes, they don't win that hockey game. That's not what I'm saying. But, like, if you're playing Michael Pezzetta under 3 minutes, why play him? Wouldn't you rather, if you're Martin St. Louis or Ken Hughes or Jeff Gordon, have somebody in Laval? Heck, they're a bunch of metro stops away from playing in your own arena. It's not like you have to take them from the east coast of Canada somewhere and bring them over here on a Via 1 first-class ticket. No, the guy's at Montmorency. The Canadiens are at Lucien Lallier metro stop. It's like a 30-minute metro ride, door to door. So why wasn't he here Saturday? Like, part of me thinks, like, I just don't think Martin St. Louis likes Michael Pezzetta as a hockey player, full stop. And so, like, if Michael Pezzetta, I think as a grown man, as a professional athlete, I think he can go into Martin St. Louis' office. What's going on here? Where do I stand? Where am I on this team? So, to me, it was an opportunity. I want to believe that the Montreal Canadiens made a mistake by not calling someone up, and they rectified that. And I'm all for it. Like, I still get that the Canadiens are a rebuilding team and mistakes are going to happen. It's inevitable. Don't repeat them. Learn from those mistakes. So that's my Michael Pezzetta rant for right now. Back to the chat. Good morning, Aces Cafe. What's up, brother? Good to see you on this Monday. Hope you have a great week. Leor, are we going to reveal who is the tough guy? So, Leor, thank you for that comment. So, to reiterate, okay, when I had this story last week, and I talked about how I have this footage from a Canadiens closed practice where this former tough guy was working with three Canadians. He was working with Jackeye, Pezzetta, and Struble, right? Technique, situational play in close quarters for three guys that are, they're not lilies, right? Jackeye, Pezzetta, and Struble, we could say, I wouldn't say, they're not all tough guys, but they're not lilies either, right? So Struble likes to hit to hurt. Pezzetta's an agitator. Jackeyes, as we saw, as Matt Rempe saw, you don't want to mess with Arbor Jackeye, catch him on the wrong day. So it was some technique. It was some attitude learning, okay? So what I can tell you now is I had a nice lengthy phone conversation with that former tough guy. And that former tough guy will be on this channel next week. If scheduling allows. He's got a busy little week ahead. He's all over. He's crisscrossing Canada and the United States. And we spoke at length for, 10, 12 minutes here. I'll tell you the truth. I'll tell you how long I spoke with him for, okay? Just for clarity's sake. Yesterday, we spoke at 3:12 afternoon, and we spoke for 5 minutes. On my phone, 5 minutes. And he was in his car driving around. And so we have it in the works. He's going to come on this podcast, and I will pull, Scooby-Doo style, I will pull the cape from off his head, and we will reveal who exactly I'm talking about. And then I fully expect a laundry list of apologies for not all of you, some of you, full stop calling me a liar, full stop calling me I'm making stuff up, full stop, I don't know what I'm talking about. All of you saying, oh, it's Chris Nyland, oh, it's George Larac. George Larac said it, or somebody said it on Chris Nyland's podcast. All of that may be true. I don't know the business of all these people. I'm not in their lives. I don't speak to them on the day-to-day, So obviously, some guys are plugged in. Chris Nyland is a very plugged-in guy, very close to the Montreal Canadiens, but for the 8 millionth time, it isn't Knuckles. Okay, so when my guest comes on this podcast, hopefully next week, I expect some of you, not all of you, but I know it's not going to happen, to say, shit, Sean, you know what? You were right. My bad. Oh, I can't believe it. Okay? And I will say some of you, not all of you, not a lot of you, some of you actually guessed correctly. So yeah, fun stuff. So that's what we have to look forward to today in the distant future coming up. So we're planning, we're working it out. Hopefully it's this weekend coming up. I like to record on Sundays. Hopefully I can bang this out on Sunday. But again, a lot of important stuff in my buddy's life. He's got some things going on. But it's coming. It's coming. I will not leave you in the lurch. So thank you for that. Thank you, Leor, for reminding me of that, okay? So that's where we are there. The Montreal Canadiens, Hypno says, have been the best team in the league over the last 5 weeks. No doubt about that. And that's why I am here today to talk to you about how comfortable I am throwing out the fact that the Montreal Canadiens gave up 7 unanswered goals to the Toronto Maple Leafs, okay? And what gives me that level of confidence comes in waves, okay? So let me talk you through this. Why the Montreal Canadiens showed you they're a good team. Why the jury is out. The verdict has been rendered. The verdict is in. The Canadiens are a good team. Because everybody is allowed to have a bad day. We can all have bad days. And you go through Saturday's game where Kirby Dach scores, Patrick Laine scores. It's like, bring it on, bring it on. Austin Matthews gets his first double minor in his career, NHL career. He gets a double minor. Josh Anderson, 9 seconds after Laine scores, boom, it's in the back of the net. The roof is blown off the Bell Center. Bob's your uncle. The Canadiens are going to, what are the Canadiens going to do? 10-0, 7-0, 8-0? What's the score going to be? Well, 7-3 is the final, okay? And Nick Suzuki didn't have his best game. I thought he was invisible Saturday. Lane Hudson had the worst game of his NHL career, was a -5. Sam Montembeault did not have a good game. I also can say that Sam Montembeault was not the sole reason why the Montreal Canadiens lost that hockey game. He's part of the reason. And I think there's a little imbalance when you're jumping into the chat or having an opinion, a hard take on and calling Sam Montembeault a terrible goalie, an awful goalie. Sam Montembeault is not an awful goalie. Sam Montembeault is not a terrible goalie. Breaking news. Sam Montembeault is also not a great goalie. As someone in the comments, yesterday called him mid. Yes, and that's fine. Like, Sam Montembeault has done an unbelievable job from a waiver claim to becoming a goaltender for Team Canada, not once but twice. World Championships a couple of years ago, and now he's one of 3 goaltenders representing Canada for the 4 nations. Worked his butt off to get himself a contract to secure a nice life for him and his family. And did that only by working really hard. Like, it wasn't given to him. It's not like his dad owns the Canadiens. It's not Zach Hyman's father that owns the Canadiens that's cutting checks to Sam Montembeault. So, yeah, maybe you got a bias. Maybe you just don't like the guy. But guess what? If Sam Montembeault was as terrible as some of you think he is, you know who would be playing center for the Montreal Canadiens today? Connor frickin' Bedard. Sam Montembeault is the reason the Canadiens do not have Connor Bedard. And I am here for rewarding hard work. And Sam Montembeault has been a hard-working member of the Canadiens. So we can talk about a goalie controversy. We can talk about whether or not Martin St. Louis should ride the hot hand. But let's be straight. You know, as I talked to you on Sunday in my live stream, I want to build a community on YouTube where all of us can get together and talk about the Montreal Canadiens in good and bad times with rational perspectives. I have time for opposing viewpoints. I really do. I really do. If you think Lane Hudson is not a Rookie of the Year and Macklin Celebrini because of injury and everything else, bring your case to the table, my friends. We all have time to talk about this rationally. But what I don't have time for is a disrespect to me personally, because that's not what we're trying to do here. That's not what we're trying to do. So I just want to make that crystal clear. You can have a differing point of view. I encourage a differing point of view. But let's keep it honest. Let's keep it with respect. And if we can do those 2 things, we can have a nice, healthy, engaged debate. And that's what I'm here for. Matthew Brosseau. Salut Mathieu, comment ça va, mon gars? Looking forward to the show every week. Keep them coming. That's the plan, my friends. No doubt we're going to do that. Jesper Magnuson. Weren't you on, I used to watch the World's Strongest Man competitions, and then when I was a little boy, those little competitions would confuse me, you know, because I'd be like, he weighs 14 stone. I'm like, what the hell does a stone weigh? I have no idea. So when I see Jesper Magnuson, you make me think of those unbelievably strong swomies I used to see on World's Strongest Man competitions. But Jesper brings in a different topic to the chat. When do the Penguins start their rebuild? The dream is fading by the trade deadline. It's surely over. What are we willing to get Crosby in Montreal? Jesper, bringing the Crosby fire to the chat today. Brother, I am here for all the 87 chatter. I am here for this. As Jesper correctly points out, the Pittsburgh Penguins, while they're kind of, you know, air quotes, in the mix, they have a terrible goal differential. And I want to say, of all like the teams hanging around, their goal differential is the worst in the conference. And lo and behold, there it is. Minus 36 goal differential. Now they have 2 wins in their last 10 games. They have 46 points out of a playoff spot. So what's it going to take to get Sidney Crosby out of Pittsburgh? Number 1, it's going to take Sidney Crosby saying, get me out of Pittsburgh. If step number 1 doesn't happen, there are no other steps in which 87 leaves Pittsburgh. So I have been mentioning this for as long as Sidney Crosby has been in the NHL. I will never forget Sidney Crosby's sit down with Gord Miller of TSN when he talked about who his favorite boyhood team was. And I remember at the time being on the radio, being on the air with the great Mitch Melnick, talking about how I always believe the generational players, regardless of the sport, they get what they want all of the time. And if Sidney Crosby, in his heart of hearts, wants to be a Montreal Canadian, and I've always believed this, and I believe this today. If Crosby wants to be a Canadian, he will be a Canadian. End of story. So he can force his way if that's what he wants, but like, what do we know about Crosby? We know a few things without ever meeting the guy. Have you ever read a negative thing about Sidney Crosby in the press? I haven't. The guy keeps his nose clean. You know, Crosby might be the most intense hockey guy I think I've ever seen play in the league. I believe Sidney Crosby isn't married and doesn't have children because I think it would interfere with his career. That's just my opinion, because I think he's that, like, in it, right? So if we're talking about a dialogue hypothetically involving a trade for Sidney Crosby, like come at me, man. Like what are we talking about? You know, um, right away I think about guys in Laval. Right off the hop, I think about guys in Laval. Like I'll tell you right now, okay? Sidney Crosby, yes, can definitely level up the Montreal Canadiens. But what I'm not sure of is would I make the trade for Sidney Crosby and trade off, right? Because you're not going to get Sidney Crosby for Christian Dvorak and Jake Evans and Joshua Ottawa, okay? Like, right? Did I have to say that? I hope I didn't, but I did. Would I give up the future and what I want and where I hope the Canadiens can be one day versus a moment in the sun that is how many years long? 1, 2, plural? And so if the price is, if we're talking Caden Gooley, if we're talking Logan Mailloux, if we're talking David Reinbacher, if we're talking Michael Hage, hell, obviously Ivan Demidov doesn't even get the conversation. Like, I want Ivan Demidov. You want Crosby? I want Demidov. I hang up the phone. I don't even continue. I don't even say no. I just hang up. So I am not. I want the Montreal Canadiens to be consistently competitive in a top 3 Atlantic Division scenario for years to come. And in the here and now, and you're getting me live, I would not make a trade if it involved any of my blue chip guys to bring Sidney Crosby in for 2 or 3 years and trade off what I think would be consistent hockey for the next decade. Maybe I'm wrong. Hit me up in the chat if you have a different perspective. Where healthy debate on this channel is always encouraged, okay? Thanks, Jesper, for bringing that to the chat. Jabron Rigatoni. I love that name. Good grief. There's so many. I lost track. I'm sorry, everybody. I lost track. There's Jabron Rigatoni. Gallagher in front of the bench, pushing back against the guy a foot taller. What a great example of his FU attitude also. Taking out Rempe after being technically sucker punched. Great points, Jabroni. I love that. Jabroni Rigatoni. Thank you for that. Yeah, Brendan Gallagher, man, that guy deserved some rewards, some offensive rewards for all his hard work and getting skunked and what looks to be having less oomph behind his shot. And yeah, let's get into the Arbor Jackeye, Matt Rempe. First of all, you know what? I made this point earlier. I think we see, and I believe this. I believe my read was correct, and you guys had it too. Like, we all thought the Canadiens were auditioning. They were auditioning Jaden Struble, Justin Barron, Arbor Jackeye. Who passed, who failed? I think we know the answer to that, right? Justin Barron for Alex Carrier. Merci, salut, la visite. And you got beat writers in Nashville wondering, who is this guy? Why did Nashville trade for this guy? Anyways, what we saw on Saturday through Sunday from Arbor Jackeye, to me, showed me how great of a job the Canadiens coaching staff has done with Arbor Jackeye. Why? Because when the Canadiens were up 3-0 against Toronto, Ryan Reeves did what Ryan Reeves had to do. He challenged Arbor Jackeye to a fight. And I believe this. Ryan Reeves did not want to fight Jackeye. He did not, because he knew what the likely outcome was going to be. But he has a job to do, and that job is, my team's down 3-0. We're in their barn. The fans are on us. I got to do my job, right? And I love Jackeye's intellect, hockey IQ. He brushes Reeves off and points to the scoreboard and then frickin' flattens him later, right? Open ice, beautiful hit. And then Sunday rolls around, and the Montreal Canadiens are in it, right? Fighting back and forth almost after every whistle. Bodies on top of bodies. Caden Gooley pulling guys off from the scruff of their neck. And getting 4 minutes for that BS call, by the way. Nonsense. But Matt Rempe, who, listen, all respect intended, I think Matt Rempe is the dumbest player in the NHL today. He makes dumb decisions on the regular. I think this is a guy in New York that doesn't think on the ice. I think he just reacts and he gets himself in hot water all of the time. I think he's a borderline dirty player too. And borderline, forget it. Matt Rempe's a dirty player. And he knew, okay, this is my opinion. I believe Matt Rempe knew, when you go into a fight and you square off and you're like, oh my God, I don't like my chances maybe. But remember what that old cliche is. It's not the size of the you-know-what. You got it in here. And Arbor Jackey's got it everywhere in spades, right? And Matt Rempe knew that if he didn't more or less sucker punch Arbor Jackey, he didn't have a chance. And then Jackey waited, found the right opportunity, unhooked the left, and boom, 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 cracked him a bunch of times, and then flattened Matt Rempe, and the fight was over. And I love the pump up. Great job, Arbor Jackey. That, to me, was a display of a guy in Arbor Jackey who has been coached, who has learned what he has been taught, and is applying it on the ice in real time. That's what I saw from Arbor Jackey. Smart, tough, heart. What a great weekend for Arbor Jackey. Plume Gaming, good morning. Good morning, Habs Nation from Aces Cafe. Good to see you in the chat, Aces. Leo, I'm kind of glad Dobish had a back-to-earth kind of game, allowing 4 goals as the Canadiens won this way. No goalie controversy. Monty hopefully remains confident. Matt Morneau, who was at the game on Saturday and admitted that he is a jinx to the Canadiens. And guess what? I told Matt, I said, Matt, you're going back to the Rangers game? He said, yes. If they lose, I won't let you back in the Bell Center. Not that I have any power, but Matt said he was going to the Rangers game. Matt, that's a nice weekend, brother. You go see the Leafs and the Rangers Saturday and Sunday. Good for you, man. That's living your best life. But the Canadiens won with unlucky Matt Morneau in the building. The curse is over, Matt. You're free to go. Brad Wright. Poor Brad. Brad's in Windsor, I believe, if memory serves me right. And Brad is a loyal viewer, texter, commenter on this channel, and suffering the after effects of the Detroit Lions choking away the divisional round at home in front of their fans to the Washington Commanders. Good morning. Looks like I'm not getting any work done for the next bit. What a game. And that's why I'm telling you. Look at this generosity. You guys are just unbelievable. Who is this? Insubordinate Academic. Thank you so much for the gratuity. Let me put a heart on that. Thank you so much. For all you guys have just been over the top with your generosity. Dobesh Waugh comparison. Difference between the two is the visible happiness Dobesh has when acting as a backup. That dude, Insufferable Academic, is living up to his nickname. That is a great point. And obviously you made the comment because I've been making that reference to Dobesh's attitude, like Patrick Waugh, and you're right about that. That's a great point by you to bring that up. That's a great point by you to bring it up, to talk about the difference, right? He's a backup, but he's happy to be in the environment that he's in. Good stuff. Rick Springhetti, good morning. I don't think there's a goalie controversy in Montreal. In today's NHL, you need 2 good goalies, especially if you're playing many games like the Habs are. Hab fans should be happy with both. From your lips, Rick, but unfortunately, that's not the reality. That's not the reality. Like, if you go back to looking at some of my videos that I did, in particular, this one here. Let me see if I could find it. Let me pull it up on my page. There it is. Habs learned lesson. This one right here. Habs learned lesson. Don't panic. Montreal Canadiens lose big game to Maple Leafs. Okay? We didn't get a lot of good views there. We got 1,500 views. Not the best. I don't think my thumbnail was that good. Didn't track very well, but c'est la vie. Who cares? The point being, you go in that comment section. You go in that comment section of that video. It is nothing but Montebo's terrible. Montebo's terrible. Montebo's crap. Get Montebo off to Canadiens. I'm like, Dobesh is the guy. Consistency from Dobesh. I'm like, wait a minute. Jakub Dobesh has played 4 games. Like, I know who Dobesh has beaten. I know Dobesh's numbers. They're off the charts. I get it. I watch the games. I'm here every day with you. Sam Montebo's played 35 games. Like, what? He played 10 games in a row because Caden Primo lost whatever version of himself that got him to the NHL. And it was the Monty show for 10 consecutive games. And if Montebo was so shit, so terrible, so unreliable, where would the Montreal Canadiens be? Would they be 12-3-1 in their last 16 games? No. No, they wouldn't. So I believe that a bunch of y'all have your heads on straight today when we talk about, where the Canadiens are. Like, look, not too many people are talking about A goalie controversy here. Jay says, I followed Dobesh from the same league. Fowler is going to be another great goaltender. We're talking about depth in goal. Jacob Fowler with the NCAA in Boston. Rick Springhetti missed the first 15 minutes of the show. Unacceptable. I will go. Yes, good for you. Rick, you're out of the penalty box. Welcome back. But I do. So let me weigh my opinion on this before I get back to your calls. I wish I could take calls. I'd love to talk to you guys on the phone. I don't believe there is a goalie controversy. And Sean Campbell and I are going to have something on this tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Campbell and I go back and forth on a goalie controversy and the topic of it in Montreal. And like Rick Springhetti and Aces Cafe, Insubordinate Academic have already pointed out a bunch of different times. Like the fact that the Montreal Canadiens have two goaltenders, serviceable goaltenders, is nothing but great news for a guy like Sam Montembeault, who doesn't have to be burdened with the pressure and expectation of delivering every single night, because if he doesn't, the team's chances of winning aren't that great. So also, let's work with sample sizes that we've grown to know from Martin St. Louis in terms of being patient with some players. So I don't. To be boring, I don't believe there's a goalie controversy today. More of your comments coming in on this Monday morning after the Montreal Canadiens come all the way back 4 different times to beat the New York Rangers in overtime. Charlottetown Spud says, take advantage of the close proximity of your farm team. Play the young guys when you can. It was really confusing. You know, I gave the Canadiens the benefit that, you know, they played Utah, Dallas in those cities last week. And I said, you know what? You're back home on Saturday and Sunday night. You can play 2 games with Pizzetta, and you don't have to call someone up from Laval. But on Friday, I expected to have somebody here ready to go for the Saturday game, but that wasn't happening, right? Scout says, I'm very curious to who this is. Travis Moen? No. What Scout is referring to there, some of you, the loyals, know, I had a comment about some information that had landed on my lap in regards to the Canadiens bringing in a former tough guy as a consultant to help teach the Canadiens. Canadiens coaching staff in the first month and a bit thought one of the things that was wrong with the organization was the players don't have an FU attitude. And so they went out, Martin St. Louis went out and, used his Rolodex to bring in guys that he believes and respects, obviously, that could help give the Canadiens a little advantage and teach them how to have that nasty attitude. Here's a question for you. If I'm talking about it, I'm proud of the job Martin St. Louis has done and the coaching staff has done to coach up Arbor Jackeye, right? Situational toughness. I loved it Saturday. Get out of here, Reeves. Matt Rempe, boom, boom, boom. Situational toughness. Picking your spots, good hockey IQ. Okay? The consistent pattern there is that the Montreal Canadiens showed you right there in that Ranger game. That FU attitude, that New York wanted to come here with this strategy of thinking, oh, we can push Montreal around in their rink. No, you can't. And the rest of the league took notice. Montreal will not lay down, whether it's Juraj Slafkovsky, Brendan Gallagher, Caden Gooley, or Arbor Jackeye, or David Savard, or Jaden Struble. There are a bunch of guys on this team that have each other's back, literally, and they showed it to you. So, as I like to tell you, sometimes the Canadiens and their coaching staff, without telling us stuff, tell us stuff, and they leave little crumbs around, and it's up to you and I to pick up the crumbs and follow the trail. And what I think I've unearthed is the Canadiens' little breadcrumb trail has led me to unbelievable growth on the ice competitively and in the space between your ears, where I think it matters more than anything else. I really believe that. And I'm so optimistic about the future of the Montreal Canadiens. And I say that watching the 7-3 loss, watching the Canadiens come back in a 5-4 overtime win on a Patrick Laine game winner. Come on, let's go. The Canadiens are good, man. So all that to say, the Canadiens were taught this FU attitude by a former guy, and I won't tell you who it is. Many people, rake me over the coals because they thought I stole a story from somebody else or George Larac. No, never, not once, and I never will. And I mean this in a non-disrespectful way. I don't listen to George Larac. I don't watch his podcast or his radio show. I don't. Maybe I should. Maybe I could, maybe I should, Um, but I just want to be transparent with you. So all that to say, I spoke to my guy, the guy who was coaching Jack-Eye, Struble, and Pizzetta. I have footage on my phone. I have footage on my phone of the practice. I filmed it. I have it on my phone right here. So I have the evidence. I spoke to my buddy for 5 minutes watching NFL football yesterday. I was folding laundry. He's like, he calls me. He's like, because I missed this call. He left me a message. And I called him right back. And I'm like, dude, sorry. He goes, what were you doing? And I said I was folding undies. And he's like, can you say something else, please? Can you give me another reason why you didn't answer the phone? So all that to say, we spoke on the phone for about 5 minutes. We talked about the Habs-Leaf game. We talked about Arbor Jack-Eye brushing Ryan Reeves aside. And when I asked him, here, I could tell you this. I asked him, I go, dude, why do you think they didn't call anybody up? And he wasn't aware at the time of how few minutes Pizzetta played. When I told him, I said, dude, Pizzetta played less than 3 minutes. And he couldn't believe it, okay? And then he said something that I can't repeat. But then he told me something else. I go, why? Why do you think they didn't do that? And you know what his answer was? And this is a guy who played in the league. He played in the show. He said, the top-end guys, Suzuki, Caulfield, Laine, Doc, Newhook, they love the extra shift. I love that insight. I didn't think about that. I mean, I played midget double C, bro. Like, I didn't sniff the NHL. I didn't sniff high-level hockey. I was a double C caliber player. I sniffed double B for a minute. But when he told me, he's like, Caulfield, Suzuki, Doc, Laine, they love the extra shift. I'm like, hockey players are going to hockey player. Lots of comments coming in today. John, good morning, Don. Dobish overtime saves a few seconds before Laine's goal was outstanding. Oh, dude. Listen, Jakub Dobish didn't have his best game against the Rangers, but in overtime, mama jama. That was awesome. And that's the thing, too. Like, isn't that consistent? Like, if I love his attitude off the ice, and I think that attitude can translate to on the ice, where he can be so confident. And how about this? Were you guys aware of this little fun fact around Jakub Dobish? Did you know he had a special someone in the stands for the game yesterday when he made his NHL Bell Center debut? Did you know that Jakub Dobish's dad was at the game last night? And that's not breaking news. I was unaware of this. Jakub Dobish has not seen his father in a year and a half. What? A year and a half. And his dad was at the game. Like, bro, I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about that. So, and he also, Dobish mentioned that he had a million things racing through his mind yesterday. So I have to believe, as great as these athletes are, as cool as they are, they're obviously human just like you and I. And, he tries to gather himself mentally. And to me, maybe that kind of explains why Dobish wasn't as sharp in the early goings as we've seen him be, because he had a million things. Dad was here. He was going to see and hug his dad for the first time in a year and a half, get to touch his father, and then make his Bell Center debut. No kidding. The guy had a million things running through his mind. But I wanted to let you know that, in case you weren't aware, if maybe you missed some of that this morning. Rick Springhetti, good to see you. Aces Cafe, as always. All my boys in the chat this morning. Good stuff, as always. Lots of people talking about the lack of goalie controversy. Curious Browser says, Matt Rempe didn't want any part of Arbor once he started getting hit. You're absolutely right. And X going to give it to you. Thank you so much. Insubordinate, the tough guy will be Tony Marinero. Oh, Tony, I love Marinero, man. I love Marinero. I wit Marinero. There's a million ways I could go with that, but I'm not going to. I would love to do, you know what I could do? I would love to do a crossover podcast. Marinero and me, back in the day, when we first started. So I was one of the first hires at Team 990 in 2001. Mitch Melnick and Ted Blackman brought me over from CJAD 800, where I started my broadcasting career on radio in Montreal. And then in 2001, Ted Blackman comes up to me and says, "Listen, we're starting an all-sports radio station in Montreal. We want you to be a part of it. How do you feel about that?" I was like, "Dude, bags packed, ready to go." And and so we go over and I'm working with these legendary broadcasters in Montreal, and our general manager at the time brings in his ringer. Our old GM used to do hockey pools, and he brought in a guy who was a hockey pool expert, and that guy's name was Tony Marinero. And our old GM loved Tony's takes on hockey and all these things, and said, "Listen, you might be good on the radio. Why don't you come on an audition?" And so obviously the audition went well, and so they put me and Tony Marinero in a studio to do a pretend show. And obviously we did well enough where Tony and I started to cover the Montreal Canadiens for the radio station. This is 2001, right? So I've known Tony for a long, long time. And he's a great entertainer. I'm not going to lie. Tony is a great entertainer. And I think if we did some sort of crossover YouTube kind of show together, I think it would be a lot of fun. But Insubordinate Academic, my tough guy source is not Tony Marinero. But thank you for that. Fox sakes, what's up? Good to see you this morning. Happy Monday, everybody. Does Patrick Laine get extended the same day as Lane Hudson? Lane Hudson, much better game. Insubordinate Academic says, "I miss Ted. Ted was my youth. Brink Spaghetti. I'm impressed by the development of Caden Gooley in recent weeks. He's always defended well on the right side, more physical now. He's setting up Laine amazingly well in overtime." Very good stuff from Patrick Laine, who is finding a nice little comforts of home with the Montreal Canadiens and the Bell Center that have embraced him universally. How cool was that to see the Montreal Canadiens representing hockey jerseys from the amateur levels of Quebec? I think Laine rolled up to the Bell Center wearing a Rosemont Petit Patrie local hockey jersey. That was very cool. Good job, Montreal Canadiens. People trying to guess my tough guy source. No, it's not Brandon Pruss. That guy was guessed quite a bit. And yeah, Crosby isn't going anywhere, says Habs a tight beat. Plume Gaming wants us to make a YouTube crossover drop happen. You know what? If you guys want to make it happen, I don't know if I'm Tony's favorite guy anymore. So if you guys want to make it happen, why don't you go over to his YouTube channel and encourage him to jump on and do a crossover with me? We can make it happen for sure. Again, if people want it, if people want it, we could do it. There's no doubt. I'd like to know if Tony's fights with Mitch was staged or real. You need to. I'll tell you the truth. You could. I need a little bit more clarity on fights. And I have been at T990 from day one, and I'm trying to think legitimate fights. I've never seen in my lifetime there, I have never seen a physical altercation, ever, ever, ever. I've never seen anybody put hands on anyone at the radio station, ever. I could tell you a story. I could tell you a great story about the time Pierre Dagenet and Mike Ribeiro rolled up, but I'll leave that for another day. And there's a Pierre Dagenet radio station, Tony Marinero connection. It's a freaking great story, but I don't know if I could tell it. It's a great story, and it really happened. But in terms of fights, there's never been an altercation. There's been some serious verbal altercations when the mic goes off, a little awkward, a little uncomfortable. There's been some awkward, uncomfortable moments on the air too. But I would say off the tip of my nose here, I would say that it was mostly for entertainment, a little wrestling there. There were many, many times that Mitch would pull rank. Yeah, verbal, obviously. I'm saying, there's never been a physical altercation at the radio station, and I've been there since day one. And that time, the Green Phantom put Andy Bennett through a table. You can find that video on YouTube. I think you could Google Green Phantom Andy Bennett table or something like that, and you'll see Green Phantom put Andy Bennett through a table in the radio station on Green Avenue. Wrestling, fake. It's okay, though. Lots of comments today. Thank you so much. Lots of engagement. Met Melnick at Hurley's. Oh, Robert. Maybe you got him on the wrong day. I work with Mitch for a really long time, and Mitch is very good people. Mitch is a mentor. Mitch is a leader. And Mitch is one of the best in the country at doing sports talk radio, full stop. But who knows? We're all prickly Pete sometimes, brother. I wouldn't take it personally, even though I think, I guess you have a right to take it personally if that was your interpretation. But I could tell you, maybe you just got him on a bad day or whatever else. Mitch is very, very kind, very, very nice, very, very humble, and very obviously appreciative of the listenership we have at the radio station. Lots of thank you so much, by the way. As I see here, Insubordinate and Aces Cafe helping us out here with the tip jar. As I mentioned on the pod, look, I'm not fishing for money. I'm really not. But again, like I see it come in, I want to acknowledge it and everything else. And I'll just repeat, I decided to take the plunge. I made a nice little investment on my end here in terms of a computer and technology and everything else like that. So I just want you all to know, I see you, I notice you, thank you. The comments, again, continue to flood the stream today. You guys are the best. Mitch is a dog person. That means he's automatically a good guy. You're damn right. Mitch is a great dude. His choice in dogs, though, no, I'm just kidding. Scott, thank you for the compliments. Lots of YouTube that revolve around the NHL, especially the Canadiens. Is that right? You know what? And Scott with a very, very nice compliment to the channel, which I certainly appreciate that. Everybody likes to be told they're doing a good job, and everybody likes to be told that what they're doing is helping people or providing a different level of insight, And when I started the channel up again, I started it up in early November, and my goal at the time was, and it's still more or less the same, I just want to create this community, and I want to do a lot of Habs talk, and I like debate, I like having differing points of view, and, I do enjoy talking to Hab fans very much. The Canadiens are my favorite team. They're really the only team I still love from my childhood to today, and I want them to do well, and this is just another way of connecting with people. And when I was studying up, I joke with some of my friends because they're like, oh, your channel's doing well, good numbers. And I keep telling everybody, I'm like, yeah, I went to YouTube University. That's what I call it. I say I went to YouTube University. And so what I did for the better part of a month, really, was I studied and I studied and I studied. And I learned how to do thumbnail art. I learned headline writing a little bit. I learned, and I'm still learning. I'm not saying I'm done, but I learned the importance of search engine optimization as it relates to keywords. And when, for example, like, here, let me see. Who's in the chat? Scott's in the chat. Let's say Scott is searching, because Scott's a passionate Hab fan. And he's like, I want to see something on the Canadiens. I need more content on the Canadiens. And so people like Scott and others put in search terms, when they're trying to find whatever they're looking for. And so when you understand what Canadian fans, I guess, are looking for in a search on Google or whatever on YouTube, you can help optimize your channel by understanding SEO, search engine optimization. And so that's helped, obviously. I think the biggest benefit for someone like me, and I think Marinero and others are in the same boat, is we have the luxury of having been on the radio terrestrially in Montreal for a long, long time. And so there are some of you in the chat that I know have been listening to me on the radio for 100 years. I got a message today. I love this so much, man. I texted it to Campbell. Let me see if I have it here. Here it is. From Marlo Jackson on my YouTube. Can I put it up on the screen? Can you see that? Can you read that? I don't know if you could read that. So Marlo wrote, crazy seeing you and Campbell face from all of these years. I was in Bordeaux prison listening to you guys all the time. And so I love that. And that reminds me back in the day when I used to do late night radio and we'd have people call and collect from RDP jail or St. Jerome or Bordeaux, 2 years less a day. And that's, it's the beauty of why I'm doing this is reaching out to the community and we can all connect here. But as I mentioned off the top, I am not a dictator. I am open to engaged debates from differing point of views. But if you come at me or you come at viewers, loyal viewers of this channel in a disrespectful way, I have zero tolerance for it. I have zero tolerance for it. I hate the amount of division that exists in the world today. I'm a positive guy by nature. And if you're coming out here trolling, I like trolls. Good troll, intellectual trolls. But if you're coming out here with stupid troll takes, disrespect, I have zero tolerance for it. And that's not what we're trying to do here. I am not trying to create an echo chamber, but I am also not trying to turn this into a cesspool. That's not what I want. I like good vibes. To the chat again here quickly. Thank you so much, everybody. Rick Springhetti, I met many radio personalities. Some are not nice. I can't remember who they are. I always remember the nice ones, as do I. And Aces Cafe says, every game someone else steps up when needed. Line Cole Caulfield, Suzuki doesn't have to carry the team, and they're playing like a team now. It's a great comment, Ace. It's been something that I think has been, I don't want to say obvious, but I see signs of a very together team, a very tight team. And I think it's a good point when Ace talks about it doesn't have to be Suzuki every day. It doesn't have to be Montembeault every day. Suzuki totally redeemed himself from kind of a no-show game on Saturday. Had a great goal to get the Montreal Canadiens engaged with New York. One of 4 leads the Rangers had, but couldn't close out. And that's the marking of a good team. The Canadiens had that FU attitude. They were tough. They were nasty when they needed to be. They were opportunistic when they needed to be. And Jakub Dobeš was the better goaltender when he needed to be. Very, very encouraging stuff in the 5-4 win over the New York Rangers. And to me, that was the other bit of good news was I'm glad the Montreal Canadiens had a Sunday game. I'm glad they were able to get right back on it because when you get 7 dropped on you unanswered, and then we're talking about, oh, they're off all day Sunday. Oh, they're off all day Monday. Oh, they're off for half of the day Tuesday. That's a lot of time to sit on a 7-3 drubbing. I was glad it gave the Canadiens an opportunity to get back out there, show what they're made of, and they passed the test. 5-4 overtime winner as the Montreal Canadiens get the OT winner off the stick of Patrick Laine, his second even-strength goal. Is it even strength? Non-power play goal, obviously, and his 12th of the year and feeling the vibes from the Montreal Canadiens fans. Martin St. Louis heading down the tunnel reminded me of Herb Brooks pumped up. Martin St. Louis has been a very, very pumped up guy. I didn't think Martin St. Louis had his best coaching game on Saturday, but that is part and parcel, isn't it, of Nick Suzuki didn't have a good game. Lane Hudson had the worst game of his career. Sam Montembeault wasn't that good. The team wasn't that good. I thought the Canadiens, to a man, were a heartbeat slow on most of the plays from the second period on. Like Toronto was on them faster, quicker in puck movement. When Berube decided to go with Marner, Matthews, and Nylander, the Canadiens really had nothing for that line. And Berube just, I thought, outcoached in that game Martin St. Louis. But they got back on it Sunday and beat a good Rangers team that was starting to play a lot better. And remember, the Canadiens and the Rangers before Sunday night were just 1 point. The separation was a point. And so that was a huge 2 points in the books for the Canadiens. Lior. Good to see you, Lior. Oh, I'm glad you guys are liking the channel. It makes me feel good. I'm glad you guys see growth too, because I don't know, I'm so in it, You ever get that? You ever experience that in your own life? Like when you're in something, maybe you're in a crappy relationship or whatever. Maybe you started dating somebody and you're 2 months into it and you're like, oh, it's all right, But then maybe somebody that you trust comes to you and says, listen, bro, you good, man? You good? Sometimes it takes that outside the box perspective to cast a light on what's going on so you see it differently. And so when I'm in the weeds on this bleeping channel of mine. I am in the weeds, man. Like analytics, still learning every day, right? Trying to get better and trying to grow. So when you guys see it, it just makes me happy. It just confirms what I think is happening too, right? Scout says, despite the terrible loss against Toronto, it's great to see how the Habs responded the next game. That's what it's all about, man. Would you even make changes? Break the team dynamic? It's a tough choice. Thank you, Sparta. Fox Sake says, Montreal needed that wake-up call Saturday for sure. We'll get revenge in the playoffs. From your lips, Fox Sakes. I love that username so much. Also, like, I'm 46 years old, but sometimes I'm still 17. And when Buddy has a username named Fox Sakes, F-A-K, because I've been on terrestrial radio for 1,000 years and I can't say the F word on radio without my station maybe losing its license based on how many people would complain. I still get a kick of saying profanity on the air, even though I'm on YouTube. Sean Patrick, can you trust somebody with 2 first names? They spent 3+ years developing Montebo. They are not going to abandon the plan just as Monty is becoming a great goalie. # Team Canada. Go Habs go. Congrats on the spelling of your name. Listen, Sean Patrick, bro. Congrats on your parents for getting it right. Because if you ask my grandfather, they did not get it right. My grandfather, still hanging on, 94 years young. No, wait. Shame on me. 95 years young. Uh-oh. Here comes Hank. Uh-oh. Hello, Hanky. Hi, Mr. Magoo. Look at this big boy here. Oh. There he is. Yeah, there he is. There's the Hanky, sir. There's Hanky. What did you come in here for? There's my big boy. Oh, maybe he's going to throw up. I don't know. He's licking a lot. But Hank wanted to come into the chat fast. Good boy, Hank. So, yeah, good stuff. Thank you, everybody. Good wake-up call for the Canadiens bounce back. Listen, Sam Montebo isn't a terrible goaltender. Sam Montebo is also, let's be honest, Sam Montebo is not a great goalie. Sam Montebo is not a great goalie either, okay? Hank the Tank in the chat today. Everyone's saying hello to Hank. He's just a good little. Is he okay? All right, guys. I think I got to run. I think Hanky's being a little... yeah. My poor duck. Not the way I wanted to end not the way I wanted to end the live stream today. But Hanky's here, licking his chops, and we've been on for about an hour. So with that, keep in mind, okay? So before I let you go, good boy, Hanky. So just before I let you go, let me just remind everybody what's coming up on the Sean Starr Show this week, okay? Sean Campbell and I are going to tackle a bunch of different things this week, okay? And basically, what they consist of, I have all my notes here. We talk about the goalie controversy. We talk about Sam Montebo and Jakub Dobeš, obviously. We talk about Sam Montebo's performance on Saturday. And then we look forward to this week for the Montreal Canadiens, who play 3 times. 2 of those games, by the way, are on home ice. And I don't think right now that the Montreal Canadiens, I'll call it now, are not in the midst of a goalie controversy. We'll also talk about trade plans and how that relates. How unbelievably great is Yoel Armia playing? And what does Ken Hughes and Jeff Gorton do based on the competitive balance of the team? As one commentator in the chat today pointed it out. You got to be careful messing with team chemistry. You also want to reward these guys for all their hard work and defying a bunch of odds makers and what we thought was going to happen. So it is a very delicate balancing act to make sure that you don't mess with team chemistry for the sake of messing with team chemistry. We'll also talk about the Four Nations tournament that starts on February 12th and the runs Nick Suzuki and Cole Caulfield have been on since they were left off their respective Four Nations rosters. That's all coming up on the channel this week, okay? So I just wanted to bring that to your attention, something to look forward to, and then you can catch me live. I will be live this week following the Montreal Canadiens game on Tuesday. Okay, so tomorrow, hopefully, you'll be able to watch a discussion between me and Campbell on goaltending. And then I'll be here Wednesday live at 11 a.m. to recap the Canadiens and Lightning game. And then Saturday morning and Sunday morning, every Saturday, every Sunday at 9:30 a.m. live right here. Thank you so much for being a part of the stream. Thank you so much for all of your engagement today. I love what we're doing here. I really think we're building a strong, tight community on YouTube, and that is basically what I have set out to do. So thank you so much for making this project what this project is turning into. And my friends, we are just getting started, okay? And we have lots of room left on this tarmac, and we are going to take off, and you can say you were here from the beginning, and we're going to do this together as a nice community. So thank you so much for being a part of this again, and check out my YouTube video tomorrow with Sean Campbell, and then I'll see you here at 11 a.m. on Wednesday, all right? As we recap the Habs and Lightning from the Bell Center Tuesday night. Don't forget the Lightning are playing in Toronto tonight, so the schedule makers doing the Habs a solid, softening up the Lightning ahead of Tuesday at the Bell Center. Have a great Monday, everybody. Go Habs, go, and we'll see you here live Wednesday at 11 a.m. Thanks again. Have yourselves an unbelievable day.